Hey everybody, it's Angie and welcome to Hot and Flashy and welcome back to another episode of Foundation Friday for over 50s. In the hot seat today is not one, but two foundations from Giorgio Armani. So we're getting a little Armani twofer today because I had been going about my business testing the Armani Luminous Silk. And just when I was in the middle of testing that, bam, Armani dropped their new foundation, which is the Armani Power Fabric. And of course, then the comments started blowing up with requests for the Power Fabric. Between the two of these, I tested them for 6 days. I did this one 2 days on its own. I did this one, the Power Fabric, 3 days on its own. Then I did one day where I did a side-by-side split face with this one on this half and this one on this half. So I've been trying to figure out how to organize this video. I think if you're here just to see luminous silk, I'm going to do this one first, and then I'll do Power Fabric second, and then I'll do the combo third, and I will wrap it all up at the end. But I am going to put the time codes of where each one starts. You can just go right to that time code and check it out. I'll put that in a comment below and I'll pin it to the top of the comments, so it should be right at the top for you to see there. I'll also put that information in the information box, which you can open by clicking that show more button. There will be links to everything in the info box, as well as links to other videos and my entire Foundation Friday playlist of all the foundations that I've tried, as well as a link to the list, which is the running list of all the foundations that I've tried, ranked from best to worst. So always a lot of good stuff in the information box. Be sure to check it out in every video. All right, so we'll start off with the Armani Luminous Silk. This retails for $64 for 1 ounce, and it comes in 24 different shades. It is supposed to be a luminous, lightweight, comfortable, buildable, light to medium coverage foundation. It's packaged in a lovely frosted glass bottle, very luxe, with the plastic top and the pump applicator. The ingredients in this one are mainly water and silicones and glycerin. It does contain alcohol, SD alcohol, which can be drying as a 5th ingredient. And of course, high-end brands like this always include their signature fragrance, so this does have a floral scent to it. I was not able to find an exact match for me in the shades. I picked it up in 5.5 first, brought it home, tried it. It was too dark. I returned that, picked it up in 5.0, which is too light. So the first day I tried it was my baseline testing, where I don't use a lot of other products with it, just to see how it performs on its own. So I put it on over my standard mineral sunscreen with my fingers. Oh my gosh, this was a disaster. I could not get it to go on with my fingers. I was rubbing it around. It was smearing around my face. It was splotchy in the coverage. You can see in the application video. It was just weird. Like, I had these big spots on my forehead where it would not cling to my skin. I ended up just applying a ton just to get some coverage on there. In the end, I did get it to look okay, but I have to say, kind of a weird day because there was so much on there. When it was just applied, I found that the finish on this one is a very soft, luminous finish. It's actually a nice, soft satin luminosity, and it's not overly shiny. It didn't settle into wrinkles. It didn't settle into pores, but the luminosity did make my pores more visible, and my skin looked more textured up close. It was lightweight and comfortable to wear. Coming back for the 5-hour check-in, it was not worn off on my nose, chin, or forehead, which was a miracle, but probably it was because of all the product that I applied. It was more shiny than it had been before, and I wasn't loving how the shine really put a spotlight on the texture issues in my skin. At the 10-hour check-in, I thought that it had very good long wear. It was just too bad that it didn't look good while it was on. It was thinning out in a few spots. It had some weird diagonal slash marks on my forehead. I don't know what those were or where they came from. It was super shiny and greasy looking, but it felt drying to wear. So that was the end of day one. Then on day two, I always try to improve it from day one by adding other products. So I primed my face with the Algenist Pore Corrector Anti-Aging Primer. I mixed the shade 5.0 with my NYX Pro Foundation Mixer in Warmth to get the color right, and I applied with a damp sponge. And when I was finished, I set my T-zone with my e.l.f. HD setting powder. One pump offered sheer to medium coverage. When it was just applied, it looked very pretty with the addition of the powder to tone down the shine and eliminate some of those textural issues, and it looked light and natural from a distance. Up close, I found that it didn't actually play well with that primer even though it was supposed to, and it was a little broken up on the surface. There was no settling into pores, there was slight settling into wrinkles, and with the addition of the powder, it looked very nice. At the 5-hour check-in, it looked okay from a distance, but again, not so great close up. It was wearing off a bit on my nose and gathering and broken up on the sides of my nose. I had those weird marks on my forehead again, and it was settling into wrinkles and pores. In the plus column, it hadn't gotten overly shiny due to the addition of the setting powder, and it was still in place on my cheeks and on my chin. At the 10-hour check-in, it was pretty worn off. There were lots and lots of skin flakes. It was very spotty looking. It was settled into wrinkles on my forehead where no foundation ever settles, and I felt that it was drying to wear throughout the day, and my skin looked drier up close and again oilier from a distance. So I wasn't in love with this one. I find this to be a perfectly average foundation for the price of $64. I don't think it's anything to get excited about. It can look good for a very short period of time, but in general, I did not love it. So the pros on this one are that it applies well with a sponge and with a brush. It's lightweight and natural looking. It doesn't settle into pores to start, and it has a natural satin luminosity. The cons on it are the price, of course, that it is drying, that it's not long wearing, that it gets shiny, that it accentuates texture, and that it settles into wrinkles. So my hopes then for the Power fabric are that this will be everything that this one wasn't. Now, as far as what they're supposed to be, they are very, very much opposite. This one is supposed to be a full coverage matte foundation that lasts for 16 hours. So let's see if this one just blows this one out of the water. You know, I gotta say, I do love the name on this, Power fabric. It just makes me think that it's gonna be like, you know, putting my face in a sling and everything is gonna be just perfected and tightened up, and it's just going to be beautiful. So let's find out if it is. This little guy retails for the same $64 for an ounce, but this one comes in 20 shades. Now the shades between these two are not the same, where I got this one in 5 and 5.5, and the 5 was too light and the 5.5 was too dark. I got this one in 5.5 and 6. The 5.5 was too light and the 6 was just right. I feel like Goldilocks here. It comes in the exact same bottle with a pump that the Luminous Silk comes in, with the same cap, same everything. This one is very similar formula to the Luminous Silk. It does have the SPF of 25 in it, where the Luminous Silk has no SPF. That is courtesy of octinoxate. It's a silicone and water blend with SD alcohol at the 6th position, and it also has the signature Armani fragrance. So let's start in on day 1, where I applied it with the mineral sunscreen with my fingers, no primer, no setting powder. With the fingers, this one doesn't blend well either. It sits on the surface looking streaky. From a distance, it looks just okay. Up close, it looks dry and textury. The coverage was not full coverage. I did add a little bit more to build it up in certain spots. The finish is not matte either. It does reflect some light, so it's a little bit more natural looking. The coverage isn't smooth. It was broken up and patchy on the surface. At the 5-hour check-in, from a distance, it looked okay, but not great close up. It was wearing off unevenly, and it was gathered in like the folds by the sides of my nose. It was so drying and making so many skin flakes. At the 10-hour check-in, it had gotten really, really shiny, so that I looked greasy, but it was so drying that there were flakes everywhere and it looked awful. So I gotta say, based on day 1, it performed and looked very similar to the Luminous Silk. So was it going to be the answer to my prayers? I thought probably not, but let's try it again another day just to see if we can make it any better. So the next day I decided to give it a try without any sunscreen because it was blizzarding here and I was going to be locked in my office all day with the blinds drawn. So I put it on with a primer on one half of my face. That was the Urban Decay Self-Adjusting Primer, and no primer on the other side. And I applied it with a damp blending sponge. The application was still sheer and uneven. It definitely did not offer full coverage, and it was very difficult to build up. It was very shiny for a matte foundation and very sheer for a full coverage foundation. It was not smoothing, it was broken up on the surface, and it didn't play well with either the primer that I had on one half of my face or the naked skin on the other half of my face. At the 5-hour check-in, it was shiny, it was wearing off, it was spotty, and it looked textury. I just don't get it. It's the opposite of what it's supposed to be. It looks just okay from a distance and really bad up close. The primer side looks actually no different than the no primer side. At the 10-hour check-in, it was pretty much gone except for the shine and the skin flakes everywhere. The Power Fabric didn't play nicely with anything. I tried a lot of different stuff to make this look good and nothing really helped it. So the pros on this one are that I got a color match. That's it. There are no other pros. I really was hating on this. The cons are many. The price to start with, that it's difficult to apply, that it's not matte, that it's not full coverage, that it is drying, that it's not long wearing. It gets shiny, it accentuates texture, it settles into wrinkles, and it settles into pores. I know any normal person, that would have been the end of the testing on both of these because neither of them made me very happy. But just because I'm a masochist, I was like, hey, let me try them on, one on each side of my face just to see a direct comparison side to side. I used a chemical sunscreen. I used the NYX Hydro Touch Primer so that it would help to moisturize my skin and I wouldn't be so flaky. And I applied with the Artist Brush. I put the Power Fabric on the left side of my face on screen and I put the Luminous Silk on the right side of my face on screen. I set my T-zone with my IT Bye Bye Pores HD powder. Looking at them side by side, I really can't see a difference between them. Definitely in application, the Power Fabric is thicker, it's harder to apply, it didn't go on as well with the brush. There were big thick clumps of it like over here on my cheek, and by the side of my nose it was all gathered up. The Luminous Silk, because it's thinner, it definitely spread nicer with the brush and was easier to blend. But once it was on there, I couldn't really tell a difference between sides. I mean, they looked remarkably similar considering that one side is supposed to be a full coverage matte and the other side is supposed to be a sheer to medium luminous foundation. So anyway, they're both luminous. Neither are full coverage. And up close, they both don't look good. They both look fine from a distance. They both wear about the same. They both accentuate texture. That's all I thought of every time I looked in my mirror all day. Every day that I wore these was texture, texture, texture. Neither of them is smoothing. I did wear it all day, why not? At the 10-hour check-in, the Power Fabric side is much, much shinier than the Luminous Silk side. I gotta say, both of them wore much better with the NYX primer than they had with any other primer I had tested them with. They didn't feel as dry and weren't creating as many flakes on this day. So definitely if you want to use these and your skin is dry, or even if your skin is combo like mine, use a hydrating primer with it. So on the phone test, why bother? I hated these both, so I didn't do it. With the flash photography, same. Try to keep this baby short. So the verdict, I think you guys know where I'm going with this. I don't like either of them. They both kind of stink as far as I'm concerned. Neither one is definitely worth the 65 bucks that you would plunk down for it. Both can look okay briefly if you throw a ton of other product at them, like a moisturizing primer and a setting powder. But they both revert to their original bad selves within 4 hours. Like, there is no keeping the shine down on either of these. So can I recommend either of these? I absolutely cannot. Save your money for something better. And if you want to find something better, the two that I can recommend highly are my two favorites. The Holy Grail is still the Chanel Perfection Lumiere Velvet. Second place now, not quite Holy Grail, is the Shiseido Synchro Skin. These guys actually are smoothing. They make my skin look better than it is, even up close. They wear well. You know, they're two really very nice foundations for about 20 bucks less than the Armani. And so the search continues. So that's it for the video for today, everybody. I sure hope you found it helpful and informative. As always, I thank you for your time. I really appreciate your watching, and I will see you in the next video. So take care, everybody. Bye-bye.